Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the Cyber Gizmo, we're going to be looking at Fedora Silverblue 37 today. I always do these two together. I always work on Workstation, and then I do Silverblue afterwards. If you want me to look at Kernel, which is similar to Silverblue, except Kernel uses KDE and Silverblue is based on GNOME. So yeah, let's get started right after this. So I think I've talked about this before, but what is Fedora Silverblue? So Fedora Silverblue 37 is based on Fedora Workstation 37. Fedora Silverblue's root file system is, however, immutable. That means that both the / user and everything below is read-only. So, and I noticed that one of the changes in this version of Silverblue is that they have also locked down sysroot. So that is now added to the immutable list as a read-only file system. So normally var is where you'll find all of Silverblue's runtime state is stored. Also, of course, etc is still read-write because of the configurations that you need to have in it. So you have home, opt, SRV, mount, temp, they're all sym-linked over to /var. Silverblue does not support dual booting to manual partitioning. I believe that is still true. Although I know that the last time I talked about this, some people in the comments said they were able to get it to work. What is this based on? So ostree is the core technology used to compose, deploy, and update Silverblue. ostree operates like a version control system, except it operates on the file system tree itself. So there's a variant called rpm-ostree, and that builds on top of ostree and adds the capability to install RPM packages on top of an ostree image. And that is how you add packages that you might want to add to the base system. However, I will tell you that that is not the recommended way to install packages. The Silverblue team would prefer that you didn't do that, because anytime you're adding on to a deployment, you are introducing risk. Risk for, you may have packages that aren't designed to work with Silverblue, risk because you're expanding the footprint of its security profile, and third, you could be inadvertently opening up the system in ways that you hadn't intended. So we'll talk about what the recommendation best practices are and what to follow later. But for right now, let's just talk about what ostree actually does. ostree is transaction. It has a backend image-based upgrade. So in other words, if I add packages or I update packages with rpm-ostree, it will create a backup copy of my current environment, create the new environment with the changes, and then once you reboot, it will automatically flip to the new build. So you'll have the latest and greatest. But if you do encounter errors, it is possible that you can reboot to an older version of the file system, or even roll back those changes altogether without impacting your user data. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? So the client-side packaging, it does do client-side package layering, and that allows you to make your own derivative versions of Silverblue. But, the ostree project is independent of the distribution. So ostree is the underlying update mechanism for Fedora Core OS, Fedora Kernel, and of course Fedora Silverblue. However, one thing I did get a comment from one of the devs on the previous version of Silverblue, which would have been 36, that said that they were looking to migrate away from ostree. So that's kind of interesting that they're looking for, I guess they have an idea of what package they want to replace it with. I don't know what that is. He didn't say. But it's kind of interesting that the issue that I see with ostree is that you have to restart your system in order to take advantage of the new environment. Whereas In a standard distribution, you don't necessarily have to do that. Now, yes, I know there are ways that you can replace your kernel with a newer version of the kernel, but those are usually in high production systems on servers typically, and you don't usually see that kind of thing deployed on workstations. Workstations generally are not considered mission critical. So, I mean, not in any experience that I've ever had, unless they're part of the operations. So, yeah, they might be considered mission critical if they are needed for maintenance of the systems. So, yeah, obviously you have to be able to get to them if you're trying to fix something. There are three ways in Silverblue to install packages. The first is the Flatpak app is the primary way that GUI applications are installed on Silverblue. They do not recommend installing packages through the rpm-ostree that you would be using on a daily basis. That's just not the intention here. Because you're trying to containerize your system to minimize the exposure of that software and minimize the security footprint that may present. Second way, there's Toolbox. Toolbox is based on Podman, and Toolbox allows you to install CLI applications, development, debuggers, tools. I'm even deploying Phoronix today to run my benchmarks through Toolbox. And I did it that way the last time. So, I mean, it did not seem to have an appreciable effect on performance, although I did notice in some areas it was slightly slower than its counterpart Fedora Workstation. But we'll see what happens today. I don't know. I mean, I'm still running them. So, and rpm-ostree package layering is used for host updates. So, yeah, I mean, there are some packages you have to install at the top level, but mainly those would be probably services that you want available to the system. So, but package layering works by modifying your Silverblue installation, and it extends the packages from which Silverblue is composed. That is how you create a derivative release, right? And you're basically creating a derivative of Silverblue for your own use when you're using rpm-ostree to do that. Most, but not all, RPM packages supplied by Fedora can be installed on Silverblue, but not all. It is possible that you may run into issues with some of the RPM packages that simply will not run in a Silverblue environment when you have lockdown to certain file systems that maybe that package thinks it should be able to write to. So package layering creates a new bootable file system root, and it does not affect your current root. So you always have a path back. And you can, I mean, it'll keep them indefinitely, but you can always remove the ones that are so old you don't need them around anymore. Package layering preserves a rollback and transactional model so that if you're familiar with the database transactional model, it's very similar to that. So package layering means that you need to reboot when you're updating or installing new packages in order for those to become available. I'll show you that today. Also, there's an experimental feature for live updates. I think it's still experimental, but yeah, we'll check on that and see if it is. But the rpm-ostree allows you to apply live into your system. However, that would switch your deployment to a new OS tree without a reboot. But yeah, I'm not sure how well that works. I wasn't successful to get it to work in the last one. So what do you need to run this? Well, the minimum requirements are you need a dual core. This is according to them. You need a dual core 2 gigahertz or better CPU, 2 gig of memory or better, 20 gig of disk space, and at least a 1024 by 768 display. However, because of the nature of running containers, your requirements for running Silverblue, the recommended ones, are going to be higher than they are for a standard Fedora workstation. And now those requirements on Fedora workstation would change too if you started running a lot of containers on it. But anyway, you need a 2 gigahertz quad core, not dual, quad core CPU or better. You also need at least 4 gig of memory. However, in my testing, I would recommend 8. I did see, again, thrashing occurring with 4 gig, and in certain tests, when I was running the Phoronix test, it was thrashing occasionally without the additional memory. So 20 gig of disk space, a 1024 by 768 screen resolution or higher is recommended. So what about the kernel changes? After you install and update Silverblue, you'll find that you have kernel 6.08. Now, but just remember that that Fedora is one of the rare distributions that changes kernels. So if there's an update to the kernel, they will replace it. So I can't do anything about that. But 6.08 is current at the time I am doing this video. But the 6.0 kernel includes a new runtime verification system, and that aims to complement the classical exhaustive verification techniques that were used previously. So they're trying to expand this. Also, IOU ring has new features added, such as there's now an async buffered write. There's also a user space block device. There's some others that are out there as well that are enhancements that I didn't mention. But networking has 0 copy sends, and there's a new ButterFS send protocol version as well. So XFS has scalability enhancements to allow it to improve its performance. The task scheduler has some performance improvements. I would suggest that you look into that. Most of them have to do with the new AMD chips and also the new Intel chips in order to take advantage of those different modes that are on the 12th gen Intel and the 7000 series of the Ryzen chipset. A DMA buffer API for exporting and importing sync files is available. There's also some Berkeley packet filter improvements. There always seems to be improvements in the BPF from one kernel version to the next. LRU list quality with a daemon is now, well, I should say, yeah, daemon improvements are also available. So with Silverblue, only certain mounts can be manually specified as partitions, and those include /boot, /var, and the directories under var, which includes var/home, var/log, var/container, and the root file system. So if you're looking to manually specify your own partitions, you might want to go and look at the install guide for Silverblue and follow their recommendations for where you should place your mount points and which ones you should change, because if you change the location of some of the immutable ones, you may end up with a system that will no longer boot. All of the same enhancements are in Fedora Silverblue as Fedora Workstation, with some exceptions. Now, they call out GNOME 43 with the new device security tab, but that's also in Fedora Silverblue, Fedora Workstation. And yeah, you'll find it there as well. I didn't notice that there was any differences in the GNU toolchain either. BenuTools 2.38 and glibc 2.36. But also, they have added the sysroot is now read-only to the Silverblue system. So if you were expecting to write something in there, yeah, you might be surprised. One of the things that I find kind of interesting is that OpenSSL is upgraded to version 3.05. I thought what I had read that the patch for the vulnerability was not put into 3.05, it was put into 3.07. So maybe I got that wrong. Or maybe the Fedora team doesn't feel that moving to 3.07 is necessary based on the downgrade of the criticality of the problem. Or they could have backported it. I don't know. Podman is upgraded to 4.3.1. Stratus file system is the same as it is for Fedora Workstation 3.3 is available here as well. I guess the thing we need to do right now is to break off and I'll go set up and let's do a quick install of it. I'll be right back. Okay, so let's work through the install. So I am going to be putting this on a virtual machine as usual. That's where I always do these installs. And then, yeah, it's English. And all these look good. English US, Chicago is my time zones, close enough. And we'll confirm the drive. that we want to install this on. And we'll go ahead and get started. This is going to take some time. I'll be back. Okay, so we're all done, and it only took a few minutes. It's about maybe 5 minutes to install this. So let's go ahead and reboot the system. I mean, it's pretty quick to come up. It really is. So we have to do some setup steps here. Yeah, we don't want location. I do want the third-party repos, though, for what I'm doing today anyway, and then skip this, and then I can put in and we're all done, and then it should come up with the tutorial for no. All right, so a couple things you'll notice that this is all the same here, where we now have the quick menu available to us even on Silverblue. And then in our settings, I'm going to set my appearance to dark. There it is. Okay. And then we should have in our privacy menu, normally we would have our device here, but because this is running on a VM, of course, it knows and it doesn't give you that option. However, if you are installing this on hardware, the privacy will have the device security, which is you can look at things like, are you in secure boot? Do you have all the necessary firmware updates for your machine? Are they current? And then it gives you kind of a pass-fail grade. Now, one of the things I remember them talking about here was that when you get to what they're planning to do in the next release is to simplify all these tests and make it a lot easier, because it is, I mean, you don't know what you need to install. It doesn't actually tell you that. And I think they know that. And I think that's one of the reasons why they want to make this a little bit easier to understand. What I want to do right now is take a look at my rpm-ostree, and we'll just do a status to see what's going on. And you'll notice right here it starts out with a state busy. So yeah, it's got one. It's doing. I think it's doing the normal, security updates in order to get all those in first. So, but it's not a full package update. So we'll have some packages we'll need to do. But if I were to attempt to do right now, it's going to say, no, I'm busy. I can cancel the current transaction if I want to, but I don't want to do that. We'll just kind of hang loose here and wait. I'll be back when this is cleared. Okay, so it is done, and I've started the update already. And you'll notice that it's checking out a new tree. So it is actually, it's actually a version control system where, it is actually showing, it's going to actually apply these to the next update. And you'll see that it will, the security updates it just did are going to be in one update group, and then this will be in another update group. And you'll see that. And then it'll show you which one is active when we do the RPM ostree status. And you'll notice I don't have to be root to do this. So, okay, so here's what it's showing me. Now, down here where this white dot is, this is my current one right here. And then it has, this is different because it used to create two different updates for this, and it's only creating one. So this is good. So it's doing a merge between the security update it was currently working on and then mine. So I should be able to, let's test that. Yeah, I know, I'm being bad. I want oops, let's do this. And I want neofetch, and I want glances, and I want get. I know I'm being bad. I'm doing what I told you not to do. But yeah, it looks like it's gonna attach this to the same update group. Which I remember when it didn't do this. Yeah, we create a new one each time, so I was wrong. The things that DJ got wrong. So, yep. So it is actually combining them. That's nice. That's good. So in other words, if I roll back, I'm going to roll back the security updates, the package updates, and this install all at the same time. Let's see if it created a new one or whether it committed to the same. We'll find out soon enough. Yep, it put them all in the same. Okay, all right. So yeah, there's 260 upgraded, 110 added, and then it has the layered packages here for those. Now you'll notice that if I don't think Git might be installed, so let's try. Nail fetch isn't there, HTOP's not there, glances. So you get the idea why that is, right? Because my active system is this one, not that one. So none of these updates have been applied. All right. So right now, my current kernel is 607. So we'll go ahead and do the system control reboot, which is the recommended way to do it. So now when I go to do that RPM status, my white pointer should have moved up, and it did. So now this is active, and this one is inactive. So yeah, and I can pick this one if I wanted to roll back for some reason. I could do that, and then I could apply all those updates again to the system. But I'm not going to do that. There's a comprehensive manual on how to do this. Rebase is the command to switch between different branches. That's how you do that. If you want to roll back, which means you're going to you want to get rid of the deployment that you made and just roll back to the one that was previous, you can do that. But a rebase will just say, leave the patches that I made, but let me go back to the beginning again. So, all right. So the other thing I want to do here, since we've got this, let's go ahead and check and see what our memory is. So it's now, when I did this earlier, it was about 970 meg. Now it's about 1.2. So yeah, I have 114 tasks, 272 threads, and I do have 4 processors running on this. So virtual processors, of course. And how much disk space is it taking? And by the way, this is using Btrfs. There's my sysroot. That one is immutable, and we can test that. And allegedly, it is immutable, so let's do a touch 0. Yep, says nope, can't write to it. So yeah, you can't do that. Let me go to my home directory here, and we'll do a toolbox. Wait a minute, I'm not done yet. So let's do a glances before I start firing up containers. 1.2 gig of used memory. That's with my app caches. And yeah, and you'll notice I am running on 8 gig of memory for this. And the reason I am is because this will definitely use more memory over time. Let's go look at NeoFetch. And my kernel is now 608, and that's because Fedora will update the kernel if there are patches. They won't. I don't know if they would go to a major being 7. I don't know if they'd go that far, but if 6.1 comes out, yeah, it's a good chance Fedora may roll out that kernel update. So yeah, if you're watching this 2 months from now and you see that it's 6.1 or whatever, you'll know that was what it was when I was doing it. That was the most current. Let's look at a couple of things here. So first of all, we talked a little bit about the package strategies. So let's go out to the over here, and we can look at what we have installed. Not a lot. It's not a lot. So I can explore. Let's see. LibreOffice is not installed. So let's do a search on it. There it is. And it should indicate that it is a flat pack. Yeah, it's installing as a flat pack. Yeah, it's got a number of them already installed. Okay, that's done. And there's LibreOffice as a flat pack. So, all right. We can get rid of that. Let's see if it's actually, yep, it brought it in already. The next thing I want to do is bring down Linus and see how hardened the system is. The reason I have to put this as root is because Linus will not run unless it is, well, it will run, but it won't do all of its checks. Let's put it that way. It'll run. It'll give you a warning. It'll say, hey, your directory isn't owned by root. Let's see. 68. We'll run. We'll see if group check has failed. Yep, it sure did. The score on this was 68, and the reason why it got knocked down was because of that. There's binary errors in one or more group files, and I think it's because it can't find. I think that's a false positive because it's not finding the match. Yeah, and Silverblue does some weird things. So okay, so I'm not worried about that too much. This, by the way, is pretty much the same as I always get. I need a malware scanner. My syscontrol values are different. I need process accounting, sysstat, a legal banner, which I don't know why they seem to think that really is going to make a difference. That you tell people accessing the system will be reported to somebody. Anyway, I need a DNS configuration. I mean, as far as the other parts of the system, this is going to look a lot like Fedora Workstation. All right, so I want to make sure that I'm in my home directory. And what I'm going to do, you'll notice that it's in var home now. So if you're looking for it in /home, I think that's going to be, it's going to be redirected to var home. So if I don't know what I need to do, I can just type it by itself. And the first time I run it, I need to do a create. Oops. And it's going to say, oh, well, my default is the Fedora project, Fedora toolbox. Now, I know it's possible to download other ones, like Ubuntu, if you prefer that. You can run those. However, their default is Fedora. Okay, so then I can do a toolbox enter, and since I only have one, I don't have to tell it which one. But if you have more than one out here, then you'll have to tell it which one to run. You'll notice this little purple dot here. That means I'm inside the container. So at this point, I'm actually using, it actually works the same as Fedora Workstation. But remember, don't install GUIs here because they won't run. Yeah, this is only for client-side applications, like if I need a debugger or a C compiler or a Go compiler or a Rust compiler, they can set this all up. The nice thing about this is, when this gets done, so the nice thing about this is if I do an ls, and let's say I do a vi on test.c, let's just do test.txt. I've shown this before. So it shows up locally for me, right? But if I log out, if I exit the toolbox, the container, you'll notice that that file is in my home directory. All my directories are available within the toolbox. This basically is also sharing the same kernel, 608. So yeah, so it's a true container as far as containers are concerned. So I guess the first thing I should start with is my final thoughts here on what I actually think of Silverblue and some of the things that it's now doing. So the first thing that you can kind of think of, this is the way I think of it, maybe it's wrong and you can correct me, but the way I look at this is that because I have an outer OS tree, I can build up Silverblue's distribution any way I want. So if there's something special in the distribution or a special set of services that I'm using, I can create that distribution out of their baseline. Now, I know they don't recommend that, but there are times when I want speed. And so I might need to go to the package manager to be able to do that. So the nice thing about this is that it allows me to keep things small in the main outer part of the OS, that is the OS tree. And then I can install my GUIs via Flatpaks, and that keeps those from pushing, libraries and conflicts and all this garbage that you normally get in a normal Linux distribution. It prevents that kind of overlap and trouble. Plus, the Flatpaks are containerized, and in them themselves, that's providing some layer of protection from that the application is doing that would protect the operating environment, which is most people think is the other way around. It's not. You're trying to protect your operating environment from your application base. So this gives me the access, by using Flatpaks, it gives me access to the latest builds and, of course, the latest bugs without having to worry about creating package conflicts in the dependency layers. So I don't have to worry about that with Flatpaks. The same thing happens with the client, the CLI or the command line interface applications. By using Toolbox, that is also a container, and that allows me to isolate libraries and configurations without impacting another container that's running in Toolbox, as well as no impact to main OS. Now, if you're wondering about can multiple people be in a container, if you're logged on as a different user, of course, your toolboxes will be your own. And so that's a good thing. The other thing is with toolboxes is that allows me to mix applications and libraries. Also, I can have configuration mismatches between them. So I could set up a project for one particular thing that I'm working on, and maybe another one for a different thing that I'm working on that could be in conflict if I tried to do them at the same time within a traditional Fedora workstation environment, for example. So I can then do things like containerized development by project, and when that project is over, I can obliterate the container with all of its packages and dependencies and libraries. That'll all be gone, and it will have nothing left on the main OS at all, which I except for the files that I saved in my local directory, except for my data. So, which is what I want to keep that, right? I might want to keep that. Also, the containerized GUI applications via Flatpak have similar things, is that I can update the Flatpak images and their base libraries without worry that one might collide or interfere or cause problems with another application that's running. So it keeps the base OS lean and clean. I don't keep throwing libraries in it and building it up and configuration and then try to figure out, well, where did that library come from? What packages does it belong to? So my final thoughts are, when we're all done here, just to summarize, I think the development team for Silverblue has been they're so quiet. They don't stand up on pedestals and say, hey, look at all the great things we're doing. They're really quiet. You have to kind of dig into what they've done to figure out what the changes are. Like today, finding that, hey, all of a sudden they are combining the different changes into a single release. Now, maybe they did that on the previous one and I just missed it. But I know in previous releases of Silverblue that each one of those was every time you executed the rpm-ostree and did an install or an update, any kind of transactional function, it would create a brand new control point. All in all, I like the changes to it. I am going to switch over again to try it for a month and replace my Fedora workstation with it. That's on my laptop, and see if I can do my daily work with it. And I'll let you know in a future video how well that came out. So hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please like and subscribe. Hope to see you all again real soon, and bye for now.